Good morning. If you guys want to take your seats, we're going to get started in a minute. Okay, well, we'll get going. If you guys need to get up and use the restroom, grab some snacks, you're welcome to do that. If you have questions during the presentation, please just hold them to the end. Another speaker might be answering those. And you can always, of course, come up to us after if you have any questions as well and want to talk to us independently. So, wanted to thank everyone for being here. My name is Robin Baker. I am the president of St. Coletta of Wisconsin. I was just appointed July 1st. Thank you. No pressure at all. Okay. So, but thank you very kindly for coming this morning. It's really important that we can share some of this information with you and allow you to ask questions as well as we kind of move forward into this next chapter together. So, we have a packed presentation today. It's going to start with me and then move to our new Vice President of Residential, Sherry Whitmer. She started back in March. Yep. And so she's hitting the ground running and getting a lot of stuff done in residential. We've got Nicole Stiles, our Vice President of Support Services, Mario Dielka, one of our fan favorites. He's our Senior Director of Mission Effectiveness. And then new to the platform this year is Donna Campos, and she's kind of taking over the day-to-day operations of development and marketing, and her first time up here speaking with you guys today. So we're gonna jump right into the presentation. I wanted to start to talk a little bit about the corporate structure of St. Coletta. And why that's important is because we will eventually see some changes in that over time. So it's important to understand how complex St. Coletta really is from a corporate standpoint. So as of we stand right now, the Sisters of St. Francis of Assisi are the governing body. So they are the highest. They started a number of corporations, and so we're an existing one. Under that, St. Coletta actually has two separate corporations. So we have the St. Coletta of Wisconsin Inc. side, which is all the operations, and then we have the St. Coletta Foundation. So that holds all of our investments and some of our holdings there. Under both corporations is a board of directors, and under those directors are different subcommittees. And so there's a lot of different people pushing at a lot of different angles based on the subcommittees that they're sitting on. But again, they all have oversight over the organization, both the foundation and the St. Coletta Inc. side. And then a smaller part of what some people might not realize is St. Coletta is a parent company for 3 other corporations, and it's all of our HUD homes. And so we have an Alverno Housing Corp., Tau 1 and Tau 2, and you can see the names up there of the houses that fall within these corporations. And so I have to this is where I give my kudos to Jenny Stolenwerk, who's sitting in the back. She's our financial controller, and her team does an outstanding job keeping all of this going, because each one of these corporations has a separate tax number, a separate audit, and has separate accounts that go with it. So if we could just give a round of applause to our finance team. And I will shout out, I don't think she's here this morning, but when it comes to HUD, how those properties were managed, we're using a third party, and we use Capri Communities, and there's 2 other ones, but we're actively moving toward managing those properties in-house. And so there's a requirement that comes with that. It's a person that's separately paid from your organization that goes through a whole process of certifications and testing and training to become a HUD property manager. So we have a gal in finance, her name is Hadley, which she calls herself Hudley. I think that's the only name you could do that with, and so it's fate. But she has been working to get trained and tested and certified, and she's doing an outstanding job. So if you have a loved one that lives in one of our HUD properties, please, if you ever run across Hadley, just let her know what a great job she's doing, because there's a whole different reporting mechanism that comes with all these HUD properties. They are commitments that we have contracts with HUD, and none of them are really satisfied until like the 2030s. And so we have a long time to deal with the HUD properties and that side of the house, and we're doing really well. And so I'm excited that we're actively moving toward internally being a property manager for that system. So where we're going to end up going, so last year we talked a little bit about how the sisters are going to be divesting, and they're in that process. So basically means that they're legally unwinding from all of these corporate ministries that they started. And once that process is complete, they no longer will be the actual legal governing body of St. Coletta. So what does that really look like? Well, there's a couple things. So there's some corporate ministries that will fall into a diocese, and so they will report to a bishop, while others will remain pontifical, like the sisters themselves. And with St. Coletta falling into 5 different dioceses, if that's the right way to say it, we are going to remain pontifical. So what we really need is what's called a public juridic person, but it's actually a group of people, and they will oversee all of the corporate ministries that are being declared pontifical. And that list looks like this. So St. Coletta of Wisconsin, St. Coletta of Illinois, St. Elizabeth's School in Baltimore, and Cardinal Cushing Center out in Massachusetts. And so the PJP is what we call it, and really underneath for St. Coletta, we're not going to see any change. This is really the top level that's changing for us, and this will happen in a few years' time. So the PJP will be made up of 9 people. It sounds like it's going to be representatives, 2 representatives from each of the corporate ministries that the PJP will represent, in addition to 1 sister, which will most likely be Sister Joanne, who is the congregation director of currently the Sisters of St. Francis. And so Sister Joanne went to Rome, and she took all of this petition with her and this document, and she met with some people, and she said, I'm really hoping, September of this year we can get this done and get all the rubber stamps. And they kind of laughed and said, oh no, this is going to take a couple of years. And so while this won't happen immediately, it will be a part of our future, and it's something that we need to plan for. Things will look a little bit differently with lay people being our governing body versus the sisters, but we're always going to make sure that their intent of when they started St. Coletta is honored, and that's, I think, the most important part. So a little update on our foundation. This is, again, the corporation that holds our funds. So we currently have about $5 million in invested funds. In addition, so part of some community-based setting rules, they switched a couple years ago, and so we couldn't be the owner and the operator. So the foundation also owns a few of our properties to make sure that that divide is there. And so we've got about $2 million worth of our properties in the foundation as well. The bigger note this year is that we've changed investment firms, and this is really important. So for a number of years, we were utilizing a company called Greystone out of Chicago. They're kind of an arm off Morgan Stanley. And you kind of got the sense after a while that we were a small fish in a big pond. And so we really looked to figure out who could be an investor that really cared about our mission, they cared about us, and they understood the goals of what we were trying to accomplish here. And so we decided to change to Baird, and for a number of reasons. So we had former board members, we've got family members that worked at Baird, but more so, they've been to some of our homes, they volunteered, they were an honoree at our gala a couple years ago, and we felt they really understood what we do here at St. Coletta. In addition, they've acquired a number of companies that help them build those algorithms of how we should be investing and how can we go about making strategic and smart decisions. So very excited that Baird is on board with us. And as we move forward, they will also be the same firm that will be they will be investing any endowment funds that come through the capital campaign, which Donna will speak about here in a little while. So good movement there, progress to make, but very promising in my eyes. So I just want to talk a little about this fiscal year and our current financials. The budget was passed at the end of June, and it was a break-even budget on paper. This also, though, included some expected expenses and also additional lines of revenue. So some of the things that we know are coming are there's a wage increase that was budgeted for. That was going to be to the tune of about $1.2 million. We did go ahead and roll that out after doing a number of wage scenarios. We did adjust some things, so we should see about $200,000 in savings with the decisions we made. But everyone, it's important to note, in both residential and vocational, got an increase this year. So if you see your staff, every single person that's caring for our folks got an increase of some sort. And really the goal was to raise the bottom. I agree. And the goal was really to raise the bottom level of our caregivers and the DSPs up to what we considered a fair wage without breaking the bank. And so we already did that, and that's actively moving into place. Everyone else would receive their 3% merit increase. That's pretty standard here at St. Coletta. If you receive a meet expectations on your annual review or higher, you're going to be seeing that increase. We also budgeted for a 4% increase in some of our operating expense areas. And then what we did recently is we went back and we looked at our capital improvement budget, and what we've seen is about an average of $350,000 of unbudgeted capital improvements annually. And so we're taking that now into consideration as we move forward as well. Some of the revenue side, so we're going to try and make some of this up. One of the first areas we were looking for was a 5% increase in rate negotiations with our MCOs. I'm going to talk a little bit about this in a couple minutes. That would kind of get us to about $600,000. We have definitely confirmed an Illinois DHS care and supervision rate, of $1 an hour increase. And so that is happening. The DSPs have already seen that. We give that directly to the caregivers once we receive it. Filling vacancies. So at the beginning of this fiscal year, we had about 20 open beds. Those beds can cost us anywhere between $50,000 to $70,000 a year. So one of the big goals is getting all those beds full. Increase in day program participants, and then also there's a fund in Wisconsin. It's called the Direct Workforce Care Funding, and it's a pool of money that basically the legislators put into, and it's a pass-through, so the MCOs are not allowed to touch it. They can't take a cut of it. And so we were seeing for the last few years about $600,000 with those payments annually. What we're seeing now is the last payment we received for June was quite low, and so we're working with DHS. We have found out that the algorithm they were using to decide these payments were unfortunately miscalculated at one of the MCO levels, and so we're trying to fight for more money. So that's an area that we're definitely going to have to pay attention and make up. And then the goal for development this year is hovering around $4.2 million. This includes some money that would go toward the capital campaign in addition to our annual fund, which is really how we close the gap currently. So I think what's really important to note about kind of my perspective going into this year is trying to make this all actually financially work. Because on paper it's good to break even, but the reality is we actually have to somehow get that accomplished. So here are my thoughts, and kind of this is the themes that I'm going to be using as I move forward for this first year that I'm in. The first one is we're going to be fiscal conservative. So what does that mean? We're really going to start prioritizing urgent needs versus wants here. For example, I was at a house in Waukesha last night, and one of the gentlemen there asked if his house could get a hot tub. So I said, great idea, points for creativity, but we will not be installing hot tubs this year at St. Coletta. So needs versus wants, and that falls in the other category, and we're not budgeting for those this year. But in seriousness, it's really important that we start making sure we're prioritizing and planning ahead for some of these things to come. Another one of my goals is to master current operations. So we've done a lot of growing in the last decade. What you will see is kind of not a reversal, but a pause on that. We will not be growing, we will not be building, we will not be buying. And why do I say that? It's not a bad thing. I want you to understand that. The reality is we need to get really good at what we're already doing. It's very hard to staff what we already have existing, and to put any more on the organization would probably be the wrong call at this point. So my goal is let's get really good at what we're currently doing. Let's boost that brand. Let's really improve the areas that we're already working on. And then the last one I really want to focus on is prioritizing that long-term sustainability. What I have noticed, not only in development, but through lobbying at the state, is there are so many uncontrollable factors that come with funding St. Coletta, many things that we cannot truly make a difference on at the end of the day. So what we really need to do is ensure that we are protecting the St. Coletta bubble. And it's very important to me, it's kind of being us against the rest of the world thing, but it's very important to me we have enough funds to be sustainable here at St. Coletta, and it's going to take all of us in this room to get there, but that is ultimately my goal. So there are three things. So I took some time, I went back and I read through about 12 years of strategic plans here. And there were some bells and whistles, some new ideas, but the reality is it kept coming back to these same three buckets or categories of areas that we are constantly challenged on fixing here at the organization. The first one is programs, the next one is people, and the last one is financial performance. And so what I would like to do is spend really this next 12 months focusing on these three main buckets. So I sat down with our board chairs. Constantine is one of them. He's here today with us. And I spent about 2.5 hours almost going through a lot of my ideas. I unfortunately probably have 10 more minutes for my part of this, and so I can't touch on everything, but what I want to share is just some of my ideas moving forward so you kind of get a sense of what I'm thinking. So kind of under that program buckets, we talked a little bit about open beds and how costly that is. So the goal is really to fill those seats and to fill the census. And I have a personal goal to get us about 90% of the way there. The trouble is when you max out all of your spots, you get into a very fickle area where if you need to move someone because of a change of condition, it's nearly impossible to do that. So we want to operate as a high level as possible, but still have an opening or two to allow people to move around and navigate if need be. We're streamlining that process. We're looking at platforms that'll help us to keep this automated. It's not that the inquiries aren't coming in. Many of them, unfortunately, we are unable to serve because they're just too high of needs, but there's still many people that we're hearing right now, their group homes are closing and they need homes. So we are going to start filling these seats and getting people in. Under residential and vocational, I won't steal Sherry's thunder. There's a number of brand initiatives that she's going to be pushing out. A lot fall in the health and wellness category and client engagement. Spirituality, this is always so important and it will continue to be. So working with Mario, talking about how we continue to provide more spiritual opportunities for the people we serve, not necessarily here in Jefferson, but out in GMA area and then down in Illinois as well. And then capital improvements, kind of going back to my budget slide where I talked a little bit about $350,000 annually of unexpected budgets or capital improvement projects, starting to plan what this looks for and getting strategic about it. So what we're going to be doing is creating a rating system. So we already have Bobby Ladwick, which I could see him up there. He doesn't know I can see him. And good morning, Bobby. And he is our Director of Quality Insurance. And so he is tasked with going into all of our homes with a checklist because it's better if Bobby finds it than the state. And so Bobby's job is really to prepare our houses in the event that we get licensed and get a new state survey done. And so what we're going to do is task Bobby with going into all of our homes and create a rating system. I want to know what his thoughts are on the external, the internal, and the structural components of all of our homes and properties. And then as we start looking into the next fiscal year, we go, these 3 homes in Jefferson, there's a definite need, and we're going to have to plan for that. These homes in Illinois, a definite need. And we're going to get really good at knowing in advance what we can expect in terms of even things like the lifespan of an HVAC system or our appliances, things like that. You kind of know how long these things last, and this is something that we're going to start taking more in account. Under the people bucket, I already talked about the wage increases. The remaining staff will get their merit increase as well. Staff training, so another component of St. Cloud you might not realize, but training our staff is significant, not only on the forefront when they're hired, but those CEU credits and making sure that if we see bad trends that are going on, that we fix those with more education. So Sherry will talk a little bit about some opportunities maybe to build up that area for our staff. In addition, I'm kind of tasking myself with working with leader teams and senior leader teams. So a lot of the meetings that we have internally on a monthly basis, they're reporting mechanisms, and they're kind of archival. What did you do last month? What are you expecting this month? I'm going to utilize, though, to develop people. Let's talk about how we can educate our leaders. Let's make sure that they're being mindful of their budgets, et cetera, and then keeping them accountable. So we're working on some things with our leaders to ensure we have a really strong team to depend on moving forward. So for the financial performance aspects, I just kind of touched on this, but keeping leaders accountable. I have now included on all of the leader maps and senior leader maps a component that touches specifically on their budget. I think one of the cultures I'm going to work on building here is just remembering there is a budget, and again, that needs versus wants, and prioritizing in your area what you feel is actually the most important things that need to get done. And my personal goal is to close this year better than budget. And that is ultimately what we're striving for this year and moving forward. For development, we're going to look at all of our fundraising initiatives. We do a lot. You probably hear about them. You probably come to some of them. A lot are fun, but all of them are human resource intensive. They require a lot of work, a lot of build up to it. So really making sure we're getting our best bang for our buck, kind of out of all these events that we're doing. And then continuing this conversation. So you started hearing this a few years ago, but we all share in the responsibility of care for the people that we're blessed to serve. This also includes the financial component. Making sure you understand that the average here is $15,000 to $20,000 a loss per person served. And just being mindful of that, because I promise you we plan on doing that moving ahead as well. And then also, Donna will talk about this, but we have launched our $10 million Life Without Limits endowment campaign. This is that idea of prioritizing long-term sustainability here. There has to be a way that we build back the reserves and have that, again, protection of the St. Coletta bubble. And so there's ways we can and we are going to do that. And then state lobbying, I'll talk about this in another slide, but Donna has graciously agreed to step in and become a registered lobbyist for us. With Ted's departure, we were losing one of those, and now we're back to 2 again. So Donna and I have already sat in on our first lobbyist meeting together. We met with 2 senators' office, a couple representatives from DHS, and the state Medicaid director a couple weeks ago. And it was surprisingly a better conversation than what we were expecting. And so, you just never know, but we did have a really good one, and that was really the first of many to come. Speaking of that, I don't know how many people raise their hands. Did anyone hear about Governor Evers and kind of his directive? Okay, got some hands, some nods. Okay, so really, what does this mean? Well, it looks good, right? The headline, $258 million for the family care system. It's not a bad thing, but there's some issues. So the first thing is what we were hearing during that meeting is that DHS was really trying to go to the Joint Finance Committee to get this money directed over to family care. There was adversity on the Assembly side to continue this cost of care into the next biennial budget, so they didn't approve it, which is why Governor Evers stepped in and directed the money this way. They are ARPA funds, so if you know about ARPA funds, there's a sunset. So they will expire at the end of our fiscal year, which is June 30th. The cost to continue this is about $207 million for the state to continue in the next biennial budget. When I talked to the state director after this came out, I had some questions for him. When Ted was still here, him and I sat on a rate setting meeting that took place at DHS, and the last one was basically there was a study done at an actuarial firm called Milliman, it's down in Brookfield, and they devised new rates based on this system. So part of the problem is there's 4 MCOs right now in the state of Wisconsin. Last year, they were all nonprofit as of last year, and then 2 of them were purchased by for-profit health insurance companies. And so they've been very challenging to work with. We've been pushing on getting new rates. And they do rates just by agreeing to a flat rate based on their own calculations. The other one we deal with, out of the 4, we deal with 3. The other one is acuity-based, so they have a tiered rating system. They do what's called a functional screen, and then they determine a fund and a rate, and that's what we get as a service provider. Well, what this forces, because the money is really supposed to be directed to family care to establish what's called a minimum fee schedule, it forces the other 2 large MCOs to create this system. So it's going to get very messy. So the wages in our new rates will probably be starting October 1st, but Jenny already knows in her team this will be an accounting nightmare that we probably won't recoup and get some of this retro pay till next year. But if the cost for continue isn't agreed upon in the Joint Finance Committee, all of this work will eventually be for nothing. But the study that they did to go back to it really increased that bottom rate that we get around $13.50 an hour to about $15.75. So as you already saw in my slides earlier, we're having to start people at about $18, $19 an hour to get them in. So it's still a significant loss, but it definitely does not hurt us at the end of the day, but getting it to continue is the most important part. So we will keep you in the loop about that. We will be sending out Family Alliance emails, and it's really important that you consider going to sit with your senator and your representatives and talk about the impact and the importance of this, because it really does change the bottom line at the end of the day. I don't want to spend too much time on the years beyond this year because I got a lot of work to do in the next 11 months. But to give you just an idea of some of the things that we're thinking about, the first one, we're going to have to start addressing the needs of our aging clients. We do have a few homes that allow people to age in place if they aren't able to go to day programs, have a wake third shift. But we see what's on the horizon and how that landscape is quickly changing. So we're going to focus on that. Sherry comes from the nursing and skilled nursing care world, and one of the things she recently learned is that Medicare is going to potentially start changing how they fund CBRFs, and so even entertaining having a few houses of all Medicare folks, since it pays better, might be a good way to find a revenue stream that we don't already have. So those changes wouldn't take place till I think 2026 they were talking, so this gives us some time to plan. Maintaining a quality workforce, going back to that people bucket. So this is actual stats pulled from a strategic plan. This is just being mindful of it and continuing to focus on that. The staffing component will never get easier, and that's something that we always have to keep in the forefront of our mind. And then my personal goals is I would like to see the operating gap go under 2 million after this next fiscal year. And we're still going to most likely be dependent on gifted money, but obviously the goal would be then to cut that down in half for the next fiscal year. If I get there, great, we'll throw a party. If I don't, what I really need to see is us tracking in that direction. This really is going to be a process, and there's no overnight fixes, but ultimately we have to have big, hefty goals to shoot for, otherwise we'll never get there. And the reserve funds, I talked about that number. We're currently at 5 million. My goal by the end of fiscal year 26-27 is to get that investment fund up to 12 million. And in addition, create a portfolio with using our Baird folks to at least make sure that we're getting 7 to 9% back in return. So these are my big picture ideas, and they might change over time, to be honest, based on our needs. But I just call this slide, if X, then Y. And so if we can do all the things that I just was talking about in the next few years, I would really like to establish a medical department here at St. Coletta. The medical side of care is intensive. There's a lot to it. And I think that what I've noticed from a business perspective, it is very challenging to get everyone out into the community to their doctors. And you'll always have the choice to choose your doctors. But what happens is when someone has to become a medical chaperone, a DSP, and take your loved one to a doctor, it really becomes a one-on-one situation that we are not paid for. Not one doctor's appointment, not 1 mile, nothing about that is ever covered. And so my thought is, and I actually have a place for it if you know where Rosemary's Kennedy cabin's outside, I thought about creating a clinic there and basically inviting doctors to come to St. Coletta and getting a medical director to cover all that care. So what does that look like? Maybe a nurse practitioner shows up a few times a week. We can get people to use her as a primary care physician. Maybe we have a podiatrist come. Maybe we even get a dental chair. But it's not about not getting people out in the community. It's really about making sure that we're honing in our expenses and being realistic about what this will look like, especially as people age. So I would really like to build something like that out here. That will take time, and it's something that Sherry and I discussed. You don't want to employ a physician. They are expensive, they come with malpractice insurance, but you sure can consult with one and use one for your benefit on a monthly basis by paying them a wage. And so lots to plan for there, lots to consider, but this ultimately I think would really help in terms of operations and benefit us. Building ADA outdoor spaces, we own a lot of land. We have big backyards at some of our homes in Illinois. We've got spaces down in GMA. Let's create some ADA spaces. Can we see trails with ADA exercise stations? Can we offer, different kinds of park systems, playground settings? Again, these are big wish list items, but I do think it's possible, especially because we own the land, which is typically the hardest thing to do. And then also go back to being this national advocate and policy influencer. So if you ever take a walk down our history wall, you see Mary Theodore Hegeman, Sister Hegeman, and she's shaking hands with Lyndon B. Johnson for a legal signing. We can get back to that level. And more importantly, what I don't understand through the American Fair Housing Act is how can we only put 8 to 9 people in a home, but nursing care can put 75 to 100? Is there a happy medium where we could build purpose-built facilities, and that goes into my number 4, that really complement 10 to 15, 20 people on all of this property we own, and maybe that's how we make sure that we're utilizing all of our resources to really help the people that are aging and really make sure we're addressing their needs. And again, big picture stuff, this could change over time, but I really see potential, but the growing, buying, building is gonna have to wait for a few years. So that is it for me. I'd like to bring up Sherry Whitmer. She'll tell you a little bit more about those details of residential. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm going to just tell you a little bit about myself because I don't know everybody. I've been here about 4.5 months. I do come from a background in healthcare. For 21 years, I worked with the state of Illinois. 18 of those was as a care manager for Medicaid. And then I became the first woman and first non-veteran to be an administrator of the Veterans Home in LaSalle. So that was one of my biggest honors. So if anybody ever is a veteran here, thank you for your service, because that was an awesome experience for me. And not did I just have, I know I don't look this old, but then I had to actually work someplace else. So I have done nursing homes, because I am a licensed nursing home administrator. So I did nursing homes most of my career after Illinois, and then I really started honing in on cognitive disabilities, dementia, whether that's, dementia is the umbrella of many things. So the last 5 years, have worked at CBRFs, RCACs, and independent living in Wisconsin. And then I also worked as executive director in Illinois for assisted living for just memory care. So I bring a lot of programming. I am a certified dementia practitioner and also a certified Montessori health professional. So a lot of that goes along with activities. Okay, so what's new with residential? Since I've come along, I've really tried to meet a lot of families, talk to the clients and the team members, and one of the main things I've heard so far is good communication and good customer service. And I think what happens is we get so wrapped up in what we're doing every day, it becomes task-oriented, not really a customer service. So what I've been putting in place is we've been talking a lot about how can we communicate better to you, how can we communicate to each other. So it's I always say it's a big link chain. So if the chain has one broken link, it doesn't go around anymore. So we have to fix each link and make sure that it's a well-oiled machine. So communication is number one. So you will start seeing more like communications from me. I am going to do some house meetings. I am over GMA, I'm over Jefferson and Illinois. So I'm kind of started focusing on GMA because their regional director's been out on maternity leave. So I've been kind of focusing on them and working a lot of these programs with them. And then I'll roll it out to the individual places. But communication's been for everybody. So hopefully you're seeing some improved communications from inside your homes. One thing also that we were talking about is diets. A lot of the families feel like the diets are not consistent. Some people is like, well, my son or daughter's gained a lot of weight. I see them eating a lot of food that's pre-made. So I've worked with the Grove menu system for years, and what they do is they actually have a dietitian on staff, and they will set out menu options for us. And so they'll send you out a month at a time. And then what's nice is it's on the computer. So say that I have lasagna on my home, and I know that my clients don't like lasagna. I can push on that, and it will give me a substitute alternatives. It'll give me a list of those, and they can change it. Okay, but it still tells you the rest of the diet, what needs to happen. So you have that option. But what's nice too is it gives you the recipe. It gives you the shopping list for the month. It gives you if you're parade, how to parade it. It gives you instructions on how to parade it. It gives you instructions on, salt being added, how to prevent, salt. Things like that. So it gives our staff a lot of knowledge that right now they may not have. If they don't like to cook at home, they may not know any of this. So it's at their fingertips. So I actually just got us signed up for that at the beginning of this week. And so you will see that in the next couple of months. You'll see some changes in their diet, in what the meals look like, okay? So hopefully that would be something that the ones who have concerns with the diet, you'll see that and you can give me some feedback. Developing programming. We have a wonderful day program, but what happens at night and on the weekends? Okay, I know that when I've come into some of the homes, I might like to watch TV for an hour or two and relax, because we all do. I mean, I lay on the couch too. But I also think there's some people who might like to be engaged in something else. It might be an activity. It might be cooking their supper that night. It might be watching a YouTube video about history. I've worked with a program, and the program was called Cogwheel. And what that did was it actually had an informational piece. So there'd be some kind of topic. Say it was Italy. And so the month is travel. They have a topic for the month. and then it has for a week, and then it has for a day. So say it's travel. So the first week will be traveling to Italy. And so when you open up, there'll be a piece of education. So either the client can read that piece of information to the team, or I could read it. And then it'll have some kind of quick little YouTube video, so you visually could see what that was about and talking about Italy. And then it will have crafts, it will have food, it'll have drinks that are with that theme. And it's all got recipes, it has all the supplies you would need. It's very very simple program. In saying that, it takes time to teach people that. I mean, I can hand you a recipe, I can hand you all that, but I have to teach you the programming. How does that work? How do I get everybody engaged, or at least the ones who want to be engaged? So I will be working with them and training them on this. So this will not be done in just by handing them the packet. It will be done about how do I train someone to feel comfortable doing this program at home, okay? So we are going to be working on programming. And then, as Robin mentioned, I've worked in the past with Relias. These are programs, I'm not sure, we're actually doing that one, but we are researching this. So giving the team enhanced training experiences. Training, the orientation process here at St. Clair is awesome. But sometimes, once we're working, we get in these habits, sometimes you just need a refresh. And so we need to find a training that continues to happen. We also need to have a really easy to track system that I did it. Okay, did you do that training? Because once they're trained, then we can hold them accountable for that. And accountability is important. Especially, I'm a person who, I have told all my teams, this is a profession. Okay, we are family, but they count on us to be the ones who know everything. I mean, you guys want us to know what we're doing, so we need to be educated at it, okay? So I'm a big component of education, mentor, coaching, and education. So this program helps us track that. It also is kind of nice because it does have on it like certified courses. I could take a 5-week course and get a certificate. It has career growth, things like that. So we're investing in our team and also hoping that that will prevent turnover of staff. Team growth, I looked at last year, and staffing's been an issue here. Of course, it's an issue everywhere in healthcare. That's not a surprise. But the HR really did focus this year, since we didn't have the increase until this fiscal year. They did do a lot of recruiting. They did job fairs, they did virtual job fairs, they've reached out to schools that have CNA classes. So they really have done that. And then it was successful to a certain extent. So here's Illinois. Illinois has had no opening. This was as of July. No, this was June's, I'm sorry. So this was June's, and this was July of last year. So they had 10 openings last year at this meeting. They have 1 today. So last month, in June, they didn't have any turnover, which is awesome. That's very rare. But they do still have 1 opening, but I know that they've already interviewed. The reason why Illinois got filled is just like Robin said, they got an increase in their wage. So what we are doing now in Wisconsin, they did last year because the state paid for that. So that made a huge difference, as you see. GMA, they filled 10% of their positions that they had open. So they were at 16, they're now at 11. I do know that with the wages, even just people hearing that we're going to increase their wages, they've had quite a few applicants. So I expect within 3 or 4 months that they'll be filled. And then last month last is Jefferson. Now they had the most openings. They had 39 last year. They still have 37. But I do think that part of that is wages, and so hopefully, I would think that we should be a lot better in with our staffing ratio within the next 6 months here at Jefferson. You've got it's a little harder to pull here. I mean, you are more rural. So GMA has Milwaukee to pull from. But, I feel like once people hear what we're paying, I do think you're not going to drive for $15 or $16, but you might drive for 20, okay, a little further. So we have to think about it like that. They have to still make a living. So, they can't spend it all on gas. So by raising that rate, I think that's going to help us fill these spots. Keeping the momentum. Once we get everybody on board, we still have to keep that momentum. And so I always think that, encouraging career growth, like I said about, maybe bringing in like a Relias programming where they can get additional certificates, things like that. We do advance DSPs to careerists and lead workers. And I think one thing that's really important is listening to them. What do they need to make them happy at work? So a lot of us, when we go to work, it's hard. And they have a really hard job. So I think that we need to realize that we have to listen to them. So as leaders, helping them, coach them, walking them through difficult situations. So give them the support they need. And like I said, increasing the starting wage, which did happen. I did write down that, the tier system, Robin kind of went over that already. And then targeting I think that recruiting people who have a passion for healthcare is very important. I know when we started losing staff with COVID and all that, a lot of times you were desperate, so you put a body in there. Anybody can be hired, but you need to make sure we are recruiting the proper people so they stay. Orientation is probably about $10,000 by the time you get through the whole month. I mean, that's a lot of money. You want to make sure it's not just a body, that it's someone who's going to invest in St. Coletta and wants to learn, even if they're new, they want to learn how to take care of people. Okay, they want to learn how to engage with families and the residents. So it's very important to do that. So one more thing about the employees. I think that what you should be seeing is, I hope, in the next 6 months, happier team members. Team members that feel like they, are being invested in. And I think that then that way we will be more successful with our staffing next year. You'll see a difference. So I wanted to jump into bed holds real quick. I know that when I came in March, there was a letter I think that had went out about making sure that we understand that we lose revenue with bed holds. We did ask when we did negotiations this year, to raise the rate they pay us, and some come back, which was my choice, and said, oh no, we won't do that, but we'll pay you the bed hold. Okay. Now, my understanding, we don't have the final. They did agree. Of course, we were happy to hear that. Okay, so if you have my choice, they're going to be paying us for approximately 24 days. I don't know for sure if that's correct, but that's what we're hearing. And that will bring in about $159,000 for us based on last year's loss. The other part of that is the other MCOs, though, did not agree to that. So we do want to remind everybody that Illinois, we do not get paid after 18.5 days, and in Wisconsin, we don't get paid after 21 days for any other MCOs. So that's important. Now, I do know, I just wanted to make a little note that when that letter went out, it was kind of confusing on what is a day, okay? So just so you know, a day is from midnight to midnight. Okay, so if you take your family member home on a Friday at 6 o'clock and you bring them back at 6 o'clock on Saturday or 8 o'clock that night, that we get paid for, because as long as we take care of them within that 24-hour period, it doesn't matter from midnight to midnight, if we've taken care of them, we get paid for that. So if you take them Saturday morning, if you take them Friday and don't bring them back till Sunday, Saturday would be the day we don't get paid for. Okay, so just keep that in mind. I think it's important that everybody understands this from midnight to midnight. So you can keep them out. If I want to pick them up at 3 in the afternoon on a Friday, and I wanted to bring them home at 10 o'clock on Saturday. We still get paid for that. Okay? Okay, how can you help meet our goals? Communication, being open to the team and giving feedback. Let us know what we do right and give us some new ideas. So I am a very hands-on person. So you will see me at the homes. You guys can call me, you can text me, you can email me with issues, and I will make sure that they are followed up on. We do know that homes get very busy. So if you've mentioned something to a home and you're like, they haven't said anything back or they haven't got to it, send me an email. I'll check on it. Doesn't mean it might be they forgot or maybe it just hasn't got done. But make sure that you let them know that you have seen improvements. I know when I went to the picnic last night, a couple of the family members are like, we're seeing a big improvement. That's important for our team to hear that from you guys. I can say, hey guys, thank you so much that you've improved so much. And I've had wonderful feedback last night. But it's also important that when they do something right, that you guys thank them too. Because I'm the same way. I'm very critical. I can easily say the bad things, but sometimes you forget to say the good things. So I'm just asking. That helps us, and that helps us retain staff, and it also helps them to feel appreciated by everybody. Being patient. All these things I'm talking about, it takes time, okay? I always do a 3-month goal, a 6-month goal, and a year goal. So my first 3 months was kind of figuring out what I see could be better. What can we do to make a better quality of life for our clients? What can we do to enhance the programming? The next 6 months, I'm going to be implementing that. Or the next 3 months, I'll be implementing that, talking to them, training them. And then by a year, hopefully it'll be a well-oiled machine, and you'll just be reaching out saying, wow, Sherry, this is going pretty well. We very rarely see something. There's always going to be hiccups. But consistency and following up is how you become successful, but it doesn't happen overnight. So I will be very involved in the training of all this and making sure it's implemented, but I also need your help. And then just volunteering. We love to have you help with the events and projects. We encourage you. We encourage everyone to be part of the St. Coletta Vision for Family. Donation of time and money is always appreciated. One thing I would like to see more of is just home activities, like a weekend cookout with the families. Not just last night, but on a regular basis through nice weather. I'd like to see more engagement that way. But that does take money. And it does take a lot of work on our staff. So it'd be nice if, as families, we say, hey, Sherry, I was thinking, I have this weekend free. What if we plan something? I'd be glad to help you plan it. I'd be happy to reach out to families and, be on site and help with that. And I know my team would. That's fun. That's the fun part of our job, doing those fun things. But it takes your help, okay? So that's basically all I have, and I want to tell you, it's great to be with St. Coletta. I love the vision. I love the feel of the families. You guys have been very open-armed to me, and I look forward to the next year coming. And now I'll give it to Nicole.
Everyone's been sitting for a little bit. I'm just going to ask you, take a deep breath in and out. All right. So today I'm actually going to talk about our support and services. I've had a change of responsibilities, and I'm the VP of Support and Services, and I thought, it's a good opportunity right now to kind of share about one of those types of supports that we provide. We may have not have focused on it in years past, but we are going to do so today. So our support services do not operate in isolation. We actually are very much interconnected with everything that we do here at St. Coletta. There's a lot of touch points within how do we support residential and vocational services, how do we communicate with the families externally, how do we even run our operations, point blank. So, with this presentation, you're also going to hear two key concepts from me. You're going to hear about quality and excellence. And I might actually ask you to repeat after me. Quality and excellence. Thank you. You guys sound so good. All right, so just going through with support services, it does surround maintenance and facility, our case management and admissions, nursing services, information technology, our IT group, and transportation services. With all that we do, our people that we serve deserve a nice place to live and inspiring and energetic environments. What you're seeing above is all the maintenance orders and things that we've done in our facilities in 2023 and 2024. It's a lot of work. We've been doing a lot of upkeep and maintenance, and the list just goes on and on and on. So let me give you some concrete pictures so that you can take a look at and see what I'm talking about. So here on the top left, our maintenance building. We actually cleaned out our maintenance building and got it way to sell it to an Amish group. So they took care of that. We've also, through the year, replaced some concrete sidewalks. Here is in front of St. Isidore. We replaced doors, have a double storm door. Jenny knows. Jenny's there, she's talking. She's also seen some of these repairs. Also replacing the sidewalks, putting in a new laundry area, and again, looking at our decks. In our facilities area, we also stood up a new maintenance building, what we call our pole barn. And so that picture that you saw before here, this maintenance building area, that's what got torn down and sold to create and stand up and erect this new pole barn right here in Jefferson. So a lot of work's been done. 2 years ago, I don't know if you heard about this, but 2 years ago we actually had a major hail damage in Jefferson. And it actually really affected about 28 of our homes. So you'll see that here. The claim itself was over $1 million to all of our properties. So on the one hand, it was not so good that we had hail damage, but out of it, we were actually able to renovate and update some of our properties, our roofs and our sidings that came out of it. So the work started, it happened 2 years ago, but work actually started in March of this year. So let me give you an example of that. So you see that the workers are here working. This is at Assisi Apartments, St. John's, Padua, Bonaventure, Mike's. They all got new roofs and siding. Also Isidore, San Damiano, Lourdes, Howenstein home. And then if you have ever received one of these letters, you know exactly what this is. One of these letters is anytime we make an improvement in our homes, we want to let you know about it. You have a vested interest in what goes on in your loved one's home. So if we make an update, you will get this nice letter from Bobby Ladwick. Thank you, Bobby, Director of QA. He's up there waving. Yes. So on this letter, it'll say creating a better home environment. It will say where, what was done. It will say when it was done, and it gives a small little summary about the improvement of the home. Anybody receive this here? Awesome. Well, for those who can't see, majority of the room put their hand up. So on the horizon for our maintenance and facilities, and our maintenance and facilities is directed by our director, Craig Weber. I have to give a commendment to him because he's definitely the foreman on the ground. So on the horizon, we are looking at all of our properties and inventory. We do that all the time. I've talked about that before. You've heard it from different avenues. But I have to share, we had an unfortunate death at our Spring Street facility. And with that was one less person in that home. And it really caused us to take a greater look and see what was the operations of that home really looking like, and were we maximizing it. We knew that the dynamic of the home, because pair match is so important for us, and all of our loved ones, right? So we knew that finding another peer match that was adequate was going to be very difficult. In addition to that, the home already was losing upwards or north of $100K every single year. Without that loved one, we were looking around $200K. So we know that that's not sustainable. So what did we do? So we knew we had mothballed, I don't know if you remember this term, but we had actually taken our Luckenbach home. We had switched its license from a group home. I'm throwing things. We had switched the license from a group home, and we decided to make it sit and wait until we were ready to do whatever we needed to do with it. While that time was here, we've now changed it to a supported living outfit, and so we are moving the residents from the Spring Street home into the Luckenbach facility. And it's a supported living. It's not run like a group home. There's not staff there 24/7. It's staff that come in, drop in, provide services, but the people are able to maintain their independence, and we can encourage their growth. So what we're going to do once we sell, because we haven't put it up to sale yet or to be sold yet, what we're going to do is once we sell it, we're actually going to put that money back into the foundation. This house is actually a property of our foundation anyway, so they're just going to get the return, and it's going to go right back into our foundation for that. Our new Illinois headquarters, I've been charged to look for a new property. Right now, currently, we have our Achieve location in one building in our Illinois location in Rolling Meadows. And then we have our headquarters very close by in another building. Well, we're looking to actually consolidate those buildings into under one roof. And so I've been charged to look for that. I did look, and to purchase something was what we were heavily leaning on. Our reality is we may not be able to purchase right now. You just heard my fierce leader talk about being wise with the money and looking at not purchasing anything. So what are we going to do? We're going to look about leasing. And so I've got a couple of prospects on the horizon. I think it's going to happen soon. But I don't want to say anything further until I know concretely and I can share exactly what that might look like. Anyways, it has to be approved by people beyond me, such as the board and our sisters and everything else. So that's kind of where we're at. And for our maintenance, we're also looking about continued upgrade. We're looking at maintenance of our existing facilities and continuing to do the wonderful work that we're doing there. Again, I'm going to say quality and excellence. All right, so case management is another arm of supported services. We have a team of Qs and CCs. Qs are in Illinois, CCs in Wisconsin. Generally, these are our social workers here. And they're our main communication liaison. They make sure that the service plan for the person is up and running in our homes. It's trained to our staff. And so that the person's voice is also heard. The family's voice is also heard in those plans. What do you want to see happen? What are the goals? What are the future terms? Also with case management, admissions is a huge piece. Shout out to Carrie Fox, who's our director of case management. We're working on automating our admissions process. We're really trying to get the admission information in quicker so that we can assess people more efficiently and to fill those vacancies that Robin talked about. Because open beds means lost revenue. Client investigation is taking place. Our case management also, with nursing, put on flu clinics and COVID clinics. They're also our main instructors for our behavioral health curriculum called MANT. So most of our Qs and CCs are MANT instructors. Also, not only on the behavioral and support and intervention, we have crisis intervention specialists in Wisconsin, and they really focus on what is going on in the home with the person and putting the person first, and also training the staff. Lastly, we also have telehealth in Illinois with Zolife, and then we also have our consulting psychiatrist, Dr. Shetley. She's here with her dog, Bentley, who's actually training to be a therapy dog. And so we have our consulting psychiatrist already in-house. And so Robin's plan about, a future vision about could we have a medical doctor come in, we have already had a jump start on it with our psychiatrist. Quality and excellence. Nursing, our nursing services, not a lot of organizations like us have nurses right on staff. Well, we do. That is one of those things that set us apart. Our nurses are consultants, so that if a staff ever needs some direction about somebody go to the doctor, can you come and take a look at this wound, can you check out these vitals, we have our nurses on staff to provide some consultation and direction for that. Not only that, we also have our nurses who train our staff and our leaders about what to do, what to look for, and just, constantly pushing that medical agenda. Marquette students also have been introduced under our nurses. Fun fact, a board member, Nora, is the one who actually gave us that link with Marquette students, but we have nurses students doing their internship at our New Berlin IGC. And this has been, for a few years over now, and it's such a successful and beautiful partnership and relationship. Also, our nurses provide on-call support to our leaders. So our leaders are never alone to make a decision if they're unsure. This is such an important piece. So our nurses go on after hours at 4:30, and they work all the way through to the next morning, and sometimes on the weekends. So that is a resource for our leaders. And our nurses also, before somebody comes back into our care, will take a look at what the hospital discharge notes look like and see and make sure, can we provide services safely to your loved one if they're coming back to us? Because once they're in our custody, we need to make sure that they're okay, right? We need to make sure that training has happened, protocols are put in place. Do we have the medications? Do we have the devices? So our nurses make sure that all of those types of things upon a hospital discharge happens before we are able to successfully care for your loved one. And then lastly, our pharmacy services. Just let you know, our nurses have been working with me to vet what our current pharmacy services look like. We work with Guardian Services for the majority of our folks. Some folks who live in supported living, they can opt for a different pharmacy, but for the most part, our long-term pharmacy care is with Guardian. And lately, we've been seeing an uptick in medication errors. And so we're just not going to sit idly by and let things happen like that. If we see a trend, we're going to try and address it. And one way we're looking at is, do we just need a fresh pair of eyes, a fresh pharmacy perspective to meet our needs to try to reduce those medication errors? Again, can you repeat with me? Quality. And? Very good. IT. Our IT folks have been really the background service, right? Background supports for us. In fact, this projector that we're looking at, the screen, that's been upgraded from the ones that we had in the past. IT has been working with our development department to make sure that our equipments in our home also are upgraded, so we have new monitors for the staff to look at, because nowadays, companies and programs and software, they rely on widescreen. Our IT department also has had to rework our wireless devices because in Jefferson, when we did the roofing, that kind of monkeyed and messed that up. But our IT department was able to get us back on track with our wireless devices. Also, our tracking system. Sherry had talked about the leave of absence days and bed holds. Well, our ParTrack system internally that we use, our IT department has been upgrading that software to make sure that we're more accurate as can be, so that we can really capture when people go, when people come back, and then what we bill, so that we're not committing Medicaid fraud, right? Also, our IT department provides services to our two other sister organizations, St. Anne Center and St. Cloud of Illinois. So what better way does our IT department do it? They really try to better our efficiency so that we have better outcomes. What else can I say? But that is quality and excellence. Lastly, I'm going to roll up and talk about our transportation services. This is a pretty big department, but it's an exciting time to share with you some of the things that's going on. Not only are your loved ones deserving of a beautiful place to live, but when we're out in the community, your loved one should be in a safe, nice, well-kept vehicle, and our transportation department does that. So each home actually has a vehicle assigned to it. Every single home has one. In addition to that, we also have a transportation fleet here in Jefferson. And our transportation fleet will take people to and from their day program. So it's kind of like a coordinated effort. Some homes take people and transportation services takes people. So in 2023, we purchased some new vehicles. We got some from our Department of Transportation grant, and some of them we had to buy outright. But I can share with you, our Tao home in Jefferson got a new van with a side lift. In our Spring Street location got a new minivan, and so did our location in Jennyburg. But we've certainly, sometimes when we purchase a vehicle, we don't foresee that sometimes a person can have a change of condition and then what's required in the home has changed then. So we did actually have to change our Jennyburg vehicle to one of these minibuses. There's a good story about this. I'll be quick. Our transportation manager, shout out to Art Pennington, he actually went down to Texas to take a look at some vehicles. He saw these minibuses. Yes, they are mini school buses, but they are to spec, okay? And the reason why these are so good is we were having problems with clients getting into the vehicles because of climbing over and trying to maneuver how to get into certain vans. But these minibuses, excuse me, they have step ladder way so that we can get our folks in safely without any hustle or fuss. So we purchased 4 of them. And so the minivan at Jennyburg got replaced by 1. And then St. Martha's, St. John's, and St. Agnes is also pegged for one of these new 4 minibuses. So again, we're kind of always looking at what are the current needs? Can we foresee what needs to be done ahead of time, get ahead of it, and then put it in place? We do look for suggestions from the families, because we've used that. We have also most definitely hear the voices of our clients. We have consumer leadership, and the clients will most definitely tell you what they think that they should have new or what needs to be fixed, and we're here for it. You know why? Because we're all about the quality of services we provide at St. Coletta, and also the excellence. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to ask Mario to come on up.
Okay, good morning. Okay, so I just would like to locate within our mission spirituality, the meaning of spirituality. If you look at our mission actually have three dimensions of outcome. One is highest quality of life. Number two is highest personal growth in the people we serve. And third, which falls under my department, is highest level of spiritual awareness. And I will piggyback on Nicole's theme of quality and excellence. We also do that in our department, only the focus is on relationships and participation within our community. See, when we talk of spirituality, oftentimes people will tell me, oh, that is religion. There is actually close connection between spirituality and religion, not so much in the sense that it is a participation in a structured membership in a structured religious community. But if you look at the meaning of religion, if you look at the root of the word religion, that actually comes from the Latin word religare, which the word ligament comes from. Ligament is that part of the body that connects everything within us. And that's what we do in the spiritual side of our department at St. Coletta. We connect ourselves with God, with one another, and with creation. Because this is actually the meaning of the vision of Jesus when he said in the Gospel of John, I came that you might have life, life in all its fullness. Fullness of life means harmonious relationship with God, with one another, and with creation. So that is the purpose of my department. It's not so much about academics. It is actually living fullness of life. And so I would like to begin by just reminding you about this importance, the biggest importance of Robin's appointment and installation as president of St. Coletta. You all know that we are celebrating 120 years of our foundation this year. During that 120 years, St. Coletta has been led by 10 sisters and 5 laymen. This is the first time we have a lay woman as president of St. Coletta. So that is very important to point out. So this is how the installation actually ceremony happened. Dr. Stimatalakis, the co-chair of our board, presented Robin as the new president of St. Coletta, and he was followed by Sister Joanne, the director of the Sisters of St. Francis of Assisi, who missioned Robin. And we heard Robin say that from the very beginning, that is the goal of her office, is to ensure the continuity of our mission. Then after she was missioned by Sister Joanne asked Sister Grace to put on Robin the Tau Cross, which is the symbol of our Franciscan mission. And then she was followed by Sister Charlotte, who gave Robin the Franciscan blessing. Then that was followed by Robin's remarks, and then came up our clients who greeted and congratulated Robin. And then, of course, it ended up with cake, sharing of cake. So that's how the installation went. So now you are part of our history. So then I will start with our 3 chaplains again. We have Father Al, who oversees the GMA program. Father Al is a Franciscan Capuchin, and actually he's a psychologist. He is actually the confessor of priests and religious in the Diocese of Milwaukee. Then we have Father Tom, who is from the Diocese of Madison, has been with us since the early 20s. And then Father Charlie, who oversees Illinois. He used to be in the Air Force, and he loves to skydive. Yeah, he's 85 years old, and the last time he jumped off the plane was 2 years ago when he was 83. Yeah. So those are our 3 chaplains. And of course, like Father Al says Mass twice in Waukesha. Father Tom, we have weekly Mass here in Jefferson. And in Illinois, we also have Masses twice a month. But then aside from Masses, we also use a lot of art, like sacramentals, like blessing, and we use the powerful tool actually of teaching our clients about spiritual life by asking them to reenact very important stories or celebrations during the year. So that is mostly what I'm going to be showing you. So here we have the clients reenacting the Transitus of St. Francis of Assisi. This is when St. Francis was dying and he was transitioning from this life to eternal life. Then on the feast of St. Francis, we always have pet blessings, both real and, of course, here, plush. And then we even have like that stuff we have there, fish. Yes, and then we always celebrate joyfully our Sisters' Jubilee. We love them. They are our founders, and they are the ones that have given us Saint Coletta. Without them, there will be no Saint Coletta. Then we bless our athletes before they go for competitions. Actually, today we have a group of athletes competing on bocce ball in Lake Geneva. Then we bless our outdoor nativity scene. We also celebrate Christmas. This is Christmas party in GMA, Christmas party in Illinois, and here in Jefferson. Then we always celebrate Mother's Day in May, because that is also when we celebrate May crowning, celebrate Mary as our mother. And you all know that 70% of our staff are actually women. So we always give them long stem rose on this day. And then that's the May crowning, talking about that's Ted and Robin. And we also continue to have our close connection with the diocese. That's Bishop Hing. He is the Bishop of Madison. And oftentimes he would invite us to come participate in a celebration in Madison. And this time they had it at Devil's Lake. This happened like a month ago, I would say. And then with the coming of Holy Week, we always started with a Lenten retreat. This time we had it at the IGC, and that's Father Al and Teresa facilitating the retreat. Then we have Stations of the Cross every Friday, all during the season of Lent. Then, like what I said, reenactment, we reenacted the Palm Sunday and Holy Thursday. So that's combination of staff and clients. Good Friday, Adoration of the Cross on Good Friday. then Easter, Ascension, and the descent of the Holy Spirit upon the apostles. In Catholic theology, this is what we call the Paschal mystery, or the way Jesus saved us from sin to bring us to eternal life. Then we have client recognition, which is actually one of the biggest celebrations we have. And of course, staff recognition. Then we have, in February, during the feast day of St. Colata, we have Mission Effectiveness Week. And then I would like to talk about also the Canticle Garden, which we are actually building in Waukesha, beside our Waukesha Chapel. And I think it will help if I explain to you that that Canticle Garden is actually based on this poem or song written by St. Francis called The Canticle of Creatures. And you have this in your folder. So this will help us understand better why we have this and why we are doing this. So I would like to first start by looking at that in relation to this song that was written by St. Francis. St. Francis wrote this poem in the last years of his life. This was, if you see here, the stigmata, when he received the 5 wounds of Jesus. He wrote this a few months after that, when he was almost blind. And he wrote this poem in 3 stages. So you could see here that there are 3 parts to this song. Verses 1 to 9 talks about our relationship with God and with one another. St. Francis is telling us here that we all have common origin and we all have common destiny. And because we are all creatures of God, we are brothers and sisters, and we should treat each other in that way. Now, the second part, this is verses 10 and 11, which talks about giving pardon and making peace with one another. St. Francis wrote this because he was asked actually to intervene between the dispute between the bishop and the mayor of Assisi. So St. Francis is saying, if we are really brothers and sisters, we believe in that and we treat each other that way, we should live in peace with one another. And when he was about to die, he wrote the last 3 verses, where he calls death sister death. And again, this is founded on these last 3 verses are founded on the first and second parts of the poem, where St. Francis is saying that if we believe we all come from God, death should not be feared. Death is a sister, because death is the way to eternal life. So that is what the Canticle Garden is all about. So you will see there are several stations there, and those stations are going to contain all the elements in nature that St. Francis called, like the brother sun, sister moon, the sister water, sister wind, all of those. And we built this in cooperation with the Works of Ministry, which is headed by Father Al and Teresa, in response to the call of Pope Francis to heal our common home. Pope Francis said that we cannot heal our common home unless we transform the way we see each other and treat each other, including nature. We will always be in perpetual work of recycling that will never end. And the only way to end that is to start treating each other, including nature, as our brothers and sisters. Then the next one I would like to talk about is the cemetery, Robin has always said that where can you find an organization like St. Coletta that owns a cemetery? What is the importance of cemetery for us? Well, this explains, in the very first place, our understanding of a human person. For us, human person is more than just a body. Human person is an integrated whole of body, soul, spirit, intellect. And death doesn't end our relationship with each other. So our cemetery is always part of our St. Coletta community. These are the people, some of the people, notable people who are buried in our cemetery. So if you go to our cemetery, you will actually be able to recall our history. See, that's Monsignor Feather, that's Sister Anastasia, and 3 other administrators, sisters administrators. And that one there, that is actually a picture of the first group of clients who came to St. Coletta. And since we cannot actually say for sure who from among those group of girls was the very first person to come to St. Coletta, in our records it says that the first person that came was Mary Noon. So we don't know who from among those girls is Mary Noon. What we know is she was buried up there in our cemetery. You will notice they are all girls. Those were the first clients that came. Actually, Sister Theodore, in the history of St. Coletta that she wrote, when the first boy came, the sisters have to ring the bell of the church in jubilation. Yeah, because the first group were all women, and then the boy came. And lastly, just would like to invite you to our 120th Foundation Day anniversary on September 12th. We always celebrate that by eating potatoes, which was the first meal by our sisters when they first came to Jefferson. But of course, now we cheat a little bit. We add a lot of other things aside from the potatoes. So please come and share with us. Now I will ask Dana to first come.
Hello, I'm Donna Campos. I have been here about 1 year and 3/4 now. I have a background of about 20 years or more in nonprofits. I had a job for 15 years where I started as a volunteer. I ended up running it with the executive director. It was an online nonprofit with 9 million members worldwide. And I've worked at United Way fundraising, United Way of Dane County, along with having my own consultancy. When COVID hit, I lost all my clients, and I was really fortunate to find United Way, and that's when I fell in love with fundraising. So I'm really grateful to be here at St. Coletta. There's a lot of talk about spirituality and God, and I have to say that every day God speaks to me here and through your family members. So thanks so much for having me here. Coming in, Robin left me with a really strong team, and I am going to tell you some of those people today. But I do want to start right away and talk about last year. We had a really strong year for development here. We ended with $3.2 million, and out of that money, 2.9, almost 3 was unrestricted. So that is money that's able to go toward our bottom line and our budgeted expenses and to help us close that gap that we hear so much about. Then, of course, we hit, and I do want to tell you about Coletta Cares. That's our employee engagement program. Our employees will donate at minimum of $2 per paycheck. And I know that's not, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it adds up to $14,900 a year. Now, if you're a participant of this program, you get to write a grant for your department or for whatever area of St. Coletta you feel that there's a need. And we get together and we give money back. And some of the projects they've done have been, purchasing new curriculum for one of the day programs. We had a client who lost a great deal of weight one year and was not able to afford to buy clothes, so his staff took him shopping. And it's just a really great way for us to give back. And to me, it says a lot about our staff here at St. Coletta and how dedicated they really are. Of course, when we hit July 1st, it all starts over, and we have brought in some money this month, but we have a bigger goal, as Robin was saying. I want to give you an update on our capital campaign, and we are really focused this year on long-term success and sustainability. Our capital campaign is in the quiet phase right now, which will last 12 to 36 months, and we have sent out the packets for that this last week, I'm sorry. So here are our family members that are on our steering committee with us. The packets are all put together. We did have to send them back to the printer because unfortunately we lost a client whose sister was part of the steering committee, and we had to rewrite some things. And then, of course, with Ted gone, they were printed with Ted, and now we had to put Robin in there. So we have $705,000 already earmarked for the project, which is very exciting news. And just recently, we received a pledge of $200,000 from the Stackner Family Foundation, which is an amazing gift, and we're so grateful for that. And then out of that, $50,000 is already here, and then the next will come over the next 4 years. So again, long-term success, and you're probably asking, what are some different ways to give, right? One of the things I like to talk about is employer matching gifts. Not everyone is aware that their employer may match gifts, so that is something to look into. You, your spouse, your family members, and whatever you're able to give, it's actually doubled by the employer. And this is really important for us because when we write grants, some of these businesses, some of the larger corporations, this is the only way they give. So we might not be able to have access to their company foundation. Also, Betsy, right? Most of you know. If you don't, she's put so much effort and work into the picnic today and into our gala, and she helps with the legacy gifts. Now, we also have transfers of stocks and securities and annuities, which we can help you set up. With Betsy working on the legacy gift, this last year, we had 10 family members and board members combined donate to our Legacy Society. And I really want to know who out here is going to be next to stand up and help us with that. We have it named after Sister Grace. She has been here, she's our last remaining sister who is employed with us, and we have it outlined here. There's a legacy wall when you come out here with pictures of her, and it's our way to honor her for the long term. So I want to make sure that we're here for the next 120 years as we celebrate this first 120. We also have Katie Simon in our development department. Katie writes our grants for us. She has just done a bang-up job. One of the things that I want to stress being here is the importance of community and the importance of our partnerships. And Katie wrote a really great grant for the Green Bay Packers this year that we were able to go, and they have a lovely luncheon where they give donations to hundreds of organizations across the state, and they're truly a community partner. I was very impressed with just how genuine they are and how caring they are with what they donate. We also have the Wheaton Franciscan Sisters, and they have, Katie's written a grant with them to provide some funding at Grace Landing. She is currently working with the Waukesha Community Foundation, and that is on a project that will go to the GMA IGC. And we also have, when I first arrived, there was no relationship here with the United Way. And at the same time that I was starting, there was a new executive director starting at our local United Way, United Way of Jefferson and North Walworth counties. And so she and I had to talk a couple times. Katie submitted a grant. We're now in full partnership with them, and they gave us a partnership grant, and we are also a recipient of their Pillar grant. So this is a great way for us to start, and like I said, it all comes back to building that community. Now, as part of that, we have to volunteer for them, and you know, that's just a great way for us to give back to the community. So, and then one thing I do want to tell you that affects Illinois specifically, we have a DOT grant. It's a federal grant, but it is administered through the states, and every state has this. Wisconsin, we've been working on for several years, and they pay for 80% of the vehicles that Katie writes the grant for. And then there's all sorts of reporting mechanisms, and it's a big, long, involved process. Well, we found out that Illinois also has this program, but they had closed it to COVID. And Katie's worked really hard to make inroads there, and we have just found out that we can now, the next grant cycle will be 2025. The difference in Illinois is that they pay 100% of the vehicles. So that's just gonna be such an amazing help. And 2025 can't just come fast enough for us. So that's what we're doing with the grants here. And then also, oh, did I miss? Oh, yeah, that also leads me into our corporate sponsorships. You'll see this year that our picnic is sponsored by Fort Healthcare. We are, last year, Betsy and I piloted a corporate sponsorship program, and so we've been able to make some inroads with some local communities. Our individuals, a lot of them are served by Fort Healthcare, and so it just made sense that it was a natural partnership that we developed. Also, some of our annual fundraising efforts, we have Giving Tuesday. The money that we raise every year on Giving Tuesday goes toward a specific project. And this last year, Nicole was talking about the new projectors. We also had some iPads and technology purchases for Illinois. So everything that we improve here, the money has to come from somewhere, and that's our job, is to bring it home. So then, along with Fort Healthcare, we also have a couple new sponsors for different projects. You know, we're working on just really building those relationships. We have Pioneer Roofing. They did some of our roofing projects, and they've given back to us the last 2 years for our gala. So it's really exciting to see this all come together. And then the last thing is, I really am excited to invite you to our 120th anniversary gala. It's not a gala per se. We are calling it the anniversary celebration this year, and we're holding it at the Brookfield Convention Center. It's a beautiful new facility. It is handicap accessible, wheelchair accessible, just gorgeous. And the carpet is even in our St. Coletta signature blue. But one of the things that I'm really excited about, and this is with the help of Noah, who is our communications and design specialist, we have worked with Hubbleton Brewery, which is a local microbrew, and they have prepared a select number of 19 cases for us of Bad Habits beer. And Noah did the design, and this is our very own sister Grace on her motorcycle, her brother's motorcycle in the 60s. We're super excited about this. I've been told it's a very drinkable ale, and it will be available first at the Hubbleton Brewery, which is about 10 miles north of Lake Mills, and they will have it on tap, and then we will be offering it as a limited edition donation for our gala. or for our 120th party. So we're going to be unveiling that. We're very excited about it. And then we also have Vince Vitrano there. He is the host of Wisconsin's Morning News Radio, 620 WTMJ. He used to be on WTMJ4, and he's very excited to be a part of this as well. So we have a few more, the theme is Saints and Sisters. We have a few more surprises that we are happy to roll out on the actual day. And then, okay, how can you help with the auction? The same way you have been all these years and know how much it is appreciated. We are hoping that you can provide gift baskets, gift certificates, anything we can auction off. And please bring your friends. This is a big deal. You know, when we're seeing 831 providers go out of business in the last few years, for St. Coletta to have lasted 120 years is truly a gift. And the only way that this has happened is thanks to you and your donations and your support, and to your family members for continuing to inspire us to do this work. You know, I honestly could not be more grateful than to be here with all of you today, and thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'm available anytime. Feel free to give me a call. If I've met you, I'm sure I'll say hi to you again. If I haven't, please introduce yourself, because chances are pretty good I know your family member and have just really had a fun time with them while I've been working here. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Donna. This concludes our presentation. Thank you. We know we went a little over. We had a lot of good information we wanted to share with you today. Is there any questions that we can answer before we head out to the picnic? Otherwise, you're welcome to find any one of us today and pull us aside if you have anything. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Enjoy the picnic.
Just a reminder, it's going to be really hot today. The chapel will remain open if you need to cool down. So please feel free to come in and cool down as you need it.